Manchester United's need for a sporting director has been an issue since the retirement of Sir Alex Ferguson in 2013. Ferguson's involvement in club life was so complete and his influence over the various departments was so profound that his departure was always likely to necessitate a structural redesign and create areas of obvious weakness. Over the past 7 years, one of those issues has been recruitment. While United remain an enormously wealthy club capable of paying vast transfer fees and enormous wages, their use of that advantage has been at best inefficient and at worst counterproductive. The lack of a sporting director has commonly been the diagnosis for why. Increasingly, European football views the position as a necessity. Sitting between the board and the head coach, a sporting director is not only tasked with providing ideological continuity, but also overseeing and managing the various departments which comprise any modern sporting operation: analytics, strength and conditioning, hiring and firing of technical staff, and of course, recruitment. Manchester United have not had that figure, and they continue to operate without it. Since 2013, David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, and currently Ole Gunnar Solskjaer have all reported directly to Ed Woodward, the club's executive vice chairman, who in turn answers to the Glazer family. And different problems have presented at different times. Under Moyes, Woodward, an accountant by trade with a strictly financial background, was deemed too involved in the transfer process, not only at the point of identification, but also in the negotiations for specific players. Consequently, United not only failed to sign available players who appeared on the market, such as Thiago Alcantara and Toni Kroos, but overpaid for the 2 players they were able to sign: Marouane Fellaini from Everton for £32 million, and later in the season, Juan Mata from Chelsea for £45 million. Louis van Gaal's reign was arguably worse, with far too much faith being placed in the Dutchman's judgment. Informed by high-profile disasters such as Angel Di Maria, Radamel Falcao, Morgan Schneiderlin and Memphis Depay, was a general recognition that Van Gaal's vision for what a Manchester United player should be was different to the club's. The result, in spite of an FA Cup win, was stale football and an imbalanced side. Under Mourinho, the issues were different again. Big-name signings were made, including Paul Pogba for a then world record fee, Henrik Mkhitaryan and Romelu Lukaku. But his reign was characterised by disagreements over further additions and his growing irritation over the club's failure to strengthen the defence. Mourinho's proposed options, Toby Alderweireld, Jerome Boateng, Yerry Mina and Harry Maguire, were all rejected, but without it being particularly clear by whom. The Portuguese, who never knowingly backs away from a fight, was vicious in his criticism, which spilled out in front of the press during the 2018 pre-season tour to America. Following a 4-1 defeat to Liverpool in Ann Arbor, Michigan, he gave a facetious commentary on a summer which to that point had equipped him with just midfielder Fred and young fullback Diogo Dalot. "I want 2 more players," he said. "I think I'll get 1. For that 1, I gave my club 5 names." Of course, Mourinho would not get his 2 players. United would fail to add to the squad, and that contributed not only to Mourinho's worsening mood and the side's underperformance, but also, among supporters, created further concerns over the club's ability to behave as a footballing superpower should. Later in the season, shortly before he was sacked, Mourinho publicly congratulated West Ham's scouts for the signing of centre-half Issa Diop, after his United side had lost at London Stadium. Without question, that was intended as a commentary on his own club's performance in that area. Now, among these many difficulties, one issue was consistent. United had no clear direction in the transfer market. If there was a trend at all, it was in their tendency to default towards well-known and famous players, giving rise to the accusation that commercial potency was a greater priority for the club than technical coherence. In recent years, Ed Woodward has become antagonised by accusations that United are directed by non-sporting employees and was quoted by The Guardian's Jamie Jackson in late 2019 as saying that there is a myth that we have non-footballing people making footballing decisions, and it's insulting to the brilliant people who work on the football side in this club. Many of the senior staff on the football side of the club have been in their roles for over 10 years. Some of our scouts have worked with us for more than 25. Now, it's a frustration which is easy to rationalise, because United have made significant strides in recent years. Evidence of a more coherent strategy has even begun to emerge, with the signing of younger players to complement a head coach willing to give chances to developing talent from the club's academy. In addition, United have also made noticeable structural improvement in several areas, including to their scouting ranks. In 2016, the club identified a need to modernise the department, engaging a sporting headhunting company, Nolan Partners, to help appoint a small army of new scouts and dramatically increase their global coverage. It led to the arrival of Henny de Recht, the former Ajax scout, to assist with academy recruitment, and for all intents and purposes, it's a process which remains active to this day. In the summer of 2019, former Manchester City spotter Romain Poirot was appointed exclusively to identify developing players in France and continue the department's exponential growth. It remains helmed by longtime chief scout Jim Lawler and head of global recruitment Marcel Baut, and supported by head of youth recruitment Derek Langley. Steve Brown, head of scouting operations, is in charge of coordinating the network and processing the reports which are filed back to the club. It is, for all intents and purposes, a very broad operation, with United employing nearly 60 individuals across the globe. And there are also plans to revolutionise the dynamics of recruitment, with United currently in the process of identifying and hiring a new analytics team. In an attempt to reclaim some of the ground lost to rival clubs, including Liverpool, who've been using a data-assisted approach for some time, United hope to have an 8-person unit in place before the 2021 season begins. So the picture is relatively healthy, particularly given the early success of playmaker Bruno Fernandes, who was signed from Sporting Club in January and looks to be a very astute acquisition. But welcome as those changes are, however, the absence of a sporting director at the centre of these disparate strands continues to provoke suspicion and cause confusion, particularly as United publicly recognised the need for one as far back as 2018. Ultimately, if Woodward is right and no non-sporting personnel are responsible for footballing decisions, then what exactly does the hierarchy look like at Old Trafford? Who is ultimately in charge of judging performance, and to whom do the scouts and data scientists and coaches and physios all report to? Well, until this appointment is made and Manchester United conform fully to modern thinking, those questions will remain unanswered. More importantly, no hermetic seal will exist between the club's sporting operations and their commercial objectives, leaving Ed Woodward to continue to fight against the same old accusations. United have certainly evolved, but at the cost of clarity and, perhaps, accountability.